Michael Lombardi, former NFL GM, nicknamed Jason Garrett the Clapper, nicknamed Kellen Moore the Joystick. Brian brought us his guy joining us here. Charles Barkley said Utah was boring, and Michael Lombardi went out to a vacation there. You said you were jealous.
Well, I mean, I assume Michael went out there for some skiing, snowboarding, which as a snowboarder, I would love to go to Utah, but I haven't been. Heard it's fantastic.
Michael, you didn't follow Charles Barkley's advice on boring Utah for All-Star break?
You know, I love Charles to death, and, you know, the first time I saw Charles was 1984. I went to Auburn to scout college players from we used to go to the old Blue-Gray game, and they told me to go over to the gym and watch this guy, and had no idea who the hell he was. And I walked into that gymnasium for practice, and this guy that looked like Humpty Dumpty was jumping through the wall, and I fell in love with him immediately. And I love him to death and have been in his company and love him. And since that day, I still have the 84-85 Auburn media guy with him dunking on the cover. Wow. So I have great respect for the great one. But I went there to give a speech. I don't ski, snowboard. I don't do anything outside that's cold. I'd rather stay inside and read a book and drink. So that's kind of what I did.
Michael, why should Cowboy fans not freak out over what Mike McCarthy had to say? Why did you love it?
To me, it was the most ridiculous interpretation by most of the national media. I mean, one guy went on there and, analytically said that this is, he does to know that people don't understand flow of the game, how to manage the game. What Mike said was probably the best thing that's come out of Dallas in a long, long time. He wants to manage the game. Kellen Moore, the reason I call him Joystick is because he's in his basement in Des Moines playing as if there's nobody else. And there is a pace to the game that must get established. Football's a game of three levels, right? In the first quarter, it's about assessment. Did we have the right game plan? Are we doing what we thought we could do? The second and the third quarter are about adjustments. The fourth quarter stands alone. And so when you're in that situation, you want to know, okay, how do I play less how do I work this so that my defense is off the field? I think the perfect example was, and one of the worst plays in Cowboys' tenure this year was 1st and 10, ball at the 18-yard line, 3:05 to go in the game against the 49ers. You go on that field, and if you understand that you have to manage the game correctly, you know that you can't punt the ball back to San Francisco. You can't. You cannot do that because their punter is the best punter inside the 20. So not only will you'll get the ball back, but you'll have no timeouts and you'll have to go 90 yards, which is exactly what happened. So when you walk on the field and you're the play caller in that situation, you say, look, I got to get positive yards on first down. I got to get positive yards on second. We're going to convert third down. We got to get this drive going. We throw 3 passes and punt the ball back. And because there's no understanding of game management, flow of the game. And so naturally we get the ball back with no timeouts and inside the 20, and we can't do anything with it. McCarthy wants to manage the game. That's all he was saying. Now, I don't think he used the right verbiage. I want to run the damn ball. He wants to pace the game, understand how you do that. And I think ultimately he should. And Moore, whose job is to get first downs and score points, did that. And so somewhere there's got to be an in-between.
Look, I agree with that. I mean, like, there is a flow of the game. There's no doubt. And I agree. Some of the verbiage he used was probably not the best. My thing has always been, like, this idea that it rests the defense. The run-first 49ers ran on average 4 plays less than the Cowboys did this year per game. Nobody's getting extra rest on 4 plays, right?
No, but it's pace of the game, right? Mm-hmm. So we have to understand the best way to play defense in the NFL today, because of the way they've set up the rules, is what? Play less defense, right? I mean, so if you play 32 minutes of defense a week, you're playing a lot more defense. If you play 28, you're playing less. Playing less defense, playing from in front, controlling the pace of the game, being able to understand the middle eight, managing the middle eight correctly. All these things Joystick couldn't do. He just kept calling plays. Hey, I'm going to call more passes. I got more passes. I got more passes to call. And never playing within the flow. And it became really a computer game, and it drove me crazy. And this is where Parcells was so brilliant. If Sean Payton didn't spend the 2 years and 3 years in Dallas with Parcells, he wouldn't have been the head coach that he is today because he understood what I'm talking about. This is what the key to the game is. Remember, it's 3 dimensions. It's offense, defense, and the kicking game. And if you don't have those in alignment, you're not going to win games that matter.
Do you think any of this is an indictment on Dak Prescott? They're not saying this in Buffalo. They're not saying this in Kansas City. Is this an indictment on Dak? Hey, we need to take the ball out of your hands a little bit. We need to run it maybe a little bit more.
I didn't take that. I took that this is about pace of the game and game management. Look, we know this. Every quarterback has to be managed. It's not a sin to say that, right? They all have to be managed. They all have to do what they do best. And you're going to have to run. I mean, you don't want Dak Prescott throwing it more than 35 times. Now, you might have to do that in some games, but no quarterback's good at doing that. I mean, especially when you're getting hit, the protection breaks down. I mean, let's go back to the 49er game. The 2-minute warning comes, okay? Here's another perfect example of pace of the game. The 2-minute warning, we've got them stopped. Pollard just got hurt, okay? Now, what do we want to accomplish here? We want to score points, but we also don't want to give San Francisco a chance to get the drive to start to come back and score points at the end of the half. So what do? We throw a pass on first down naturally because that's what we do. We're in the basement. We're in Des Moines. We're calling pass plays. We're playing Madden. But if we run the ball there and we milk the clock and take that 40-second clock all the way down, we're reducing the game. We're reducing the game to set up our situation so that we're like a pool player. We're going to make this shot, and we're going to set the cue ball up for another shot. But naturally, we don't do that. We throw the interception. We blame Dak. I blame the play call. That should have been a run, a screen, some control pass so that the clock works for us. Do you understand what I'm saying? The clock needs to work for us.
Yes. Do you agree overall that shortening a game, just overall, gives the lesser team more of a chance?
No, I don't. I'm not talking about shortening the game. I'm not talking about playing pen basketball in the 70s and running four corners and dribbling around until the 45-second clock got invented. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about pacing the game. I'm talking about understanding that your opponent – football is a unique sport because not only do you have the opponent across the field, the clock is also your opponent, and it can be your friend or your ally. And if you don't incorporate that into your thinking, then you end up being really short. And I'm not talking about playing slow. I'm talking about pacing the game.
We're talking here with former NFL GM Michael Lombardi, host of the GM Shuffle podcast. Michael, when you look at McCarthy taking over this offense, and we've heard estimates of 30 to 35% is going to change. Given what you know about Mike McCarthy, your thoughts on Kellen Moore, what would be your biggest concern for Cowboys fans in this transition to McCarthy? Like, what's the biggest thing the Cowboys fans might have to worry about McCarthy running the offense?
I don't. I mean, look, McCarthy's won a Super Bowl with Green Bay. I missed Kellen Moore's Super Bowl win. I must have missed that. I don't know. Where was I? Was out. I must have been in Utah. I mean, I missed this, right? Like, you guys talk like you're talking about replacing Sid Gilman or Clark Shaughnessy. I mean, what he's going to do is pace the game. He's going to run more of what he wants to run. I never understood why he went to Dallas to not call plays. He won a Super Bowl calling plays. You can say he's not a great play caller. Well, he won a Super Bowl doing it. So he's going to manage the game. The head coach has to have a connection to the quarterback. He's got to be able to demonstrate the game through the quarterback. I think it's going to be critical. I don't see it as a downfall. I see them, they have to be physically offense. I mean, they're going to re-sign Pollard. You know that. I've been screaming for 3 years. Zeke Elliott, everybody complained about Linehan. Zeke Elliott was averaging 10 yards a catch when Linehan was there. When the joystick got in town, he's down to 5. We're not throwing the ball to the back. He was a really good receiver coming out of the backfield. Now, that has changed because he's no longer the same athlete that he once was, and maybe he can get that back. But the reality of it is they've got to incorporate their weapons within everything they do. Pollard's a weapon. He's not a running back. He's a weapon.
Michael, what else do you see as an offseason team need? Cowboy fans, they call Stephen Jones Cat Boy. They're mad that he's cheap. They don't go out with a big splash. Jerry was talking about Odell the other day. We got Jalen Ramsey trade rumors. We got another crack maybe at Bobby Wagner. Who is a big name fit that you would like to see the Cowboys sign, if any?
I mean, Bobby Wagner was once a great player, but remember when, as Tony Soprano once said, it's the lowest form of conversation, okay? So when you're no longer good, you can stop bringing up the name. I mean, Bobby Wagner wouldn't have been released twice if he was still playing at a high level. Look, Ramsey's a really good player, makes $17 million a year. He would be a really great addition alongside of Diggs, but can they afford him in their cap? And I understand he wants more money, but I think he would be a tremendous player. I think what they've done a good job is Will McClay is a really good personnel guy. They get good players. I mean, Pollard just didn't show up because he liked the star. I mean, they get good players on that team. They do a good job of procuring talent there. And they have a talented team. Now they have to play within itself and they got to play together. But I think to me, they've got to continue to rebuild that offensive line. I think that's going to be the key. They can't count on Smith staying healthy all the time. What are they going to do at right tackle? Where are they going to be inside? I think that's the key. Look, does anybody know if Odell can still play? We talk like Odell's still the Odell that made the catch against the Cowboys in Giant Stadium. I mean, I haven't seen him play. He's coming off of a second ACL. How good do you think he's going to be?
You're a GM who gets to pick between these two for the next 3 years, same money. Dak or Hurts?
Well, look, it's a little different. You know, Hurts runs an offense that very few people can run. He's running a college offense. He's running a six-back offense. And, you know, we have not seen Hurts throw the ball. He did in the Super Bowl. We haven't seen him throw the ball to the level that Dak has thrown it. You know, what we've seen him do is run with it. And in this six-back offense, it's hard to handle. But I don't know how long the six-back offense can go, assuming he can stay healthy. I think that's got to be a real concern. When I talk about the six-back offense, I'm talking about the old-school single wing, where the quarterback was as much a part of the run game as anybody. And that's what Hurts is. Can he stay healthy doing that? I think that's a huge concern if you are. I think Dak's a really good player. Is he overpaid? There's no doubt. I mean, there's no doubt they overpaid him. He's not a $45 million. But no quarterback in the league, including Hurts, can carry a team. Hurts has really good yards after the catch receivers. A.J. Brown, that's one of the keys they did. So when you marry the scheme, you marry the players to the quarterback looks really good. When you don't, he doesn't.
Michael, Anthony Richardson's now the odds-on favorite to be like the number one pick in some books after his combine weekend. We've seen coaches skip it. Belichick skipped it. The Packers weren't even there. What do you take from the combine at this stage?
Well, look, I thought when I first saw Anthony Richardson, I thought he'd be a first-round pick immediately. I didn't understand how he was playing behind the kid who transferred to Arizona State. Only Dan Mullen could figure that out. I couldn't. But I was TV scouting. I have no idea. This is a big physical kid. Now, they say he compares him to Cam Newton. Time out here. Cam Newton won a national championship at Auburn. Cam Newton won the Heisman. Cam Newton's a type A leader who's got unique leadership skills. So let's not put him in the Cam Newton's category, especially considering the year he had at Florida this year. He's an immensely talented young man with all the skills you need. Now, what separates quarterbacks in the NFL is their work ethic, right? I mean, Johnny Manziel was talented. He just didn't work. A lot of these guys, Zach Wilson's talented. Does he work hard enough? I don't know. So I think that's what you have to find out at the Combine. That's what it's there for. I think Richardson will be under the microscope for the next 2 months before the draft because his uniqueness athletically fits into where we're going with this six-back offense in the NFL. There were 6 or 7 teams running, including the Giants with Daniel Jones. So they paid Daniel Jones $45 million. Cowboy fans ought to stand up and cheer because that's going to take away from all the other things they should do with their roster.
So I heard you on the GM Shuffle bring up some really interesting perspective on maybe the Combine being a little overrated, Belichick staying home, or the Green Bay Packers not going. Can you just repeat that for our audience of why you may not have to be there?
Well, you don't have to be there because the reality of it, you're going to see the film on the players on the tape, right? The only advantage you get is interviewing the players one-on-one at that time. And that's sometimes really hard to do because you only get 15 minutes. So, like for anybody who interviewed Anthony Richardson, just 15 minutes, you're going to have to go back and go to Florida and spend time on campus. So the Combine is all about the physicals. That's what you really want. You want the physicals. Everything else you can do on tape. So why not stay in your office and watch as much tape as you can on the players instead of wasting your time eating St. Elmo's shrimp cocktail? It really makes more sense to do that.
How fun is the party social scene, though, at St. Elmo's?
I worked with Belichick and Al Davis. There was no party scene at all. Al Davis, if you own golf clubs, you were getting fired. Okay, let's put that out there. If you smoked a pipe or had golf clubs, you were out. So, that was it. Seriously, if you smoked a pipe, you were dead. That was the persona non grata there. But, look, I had dinner every night with him at the Don Shula Steakhouse at 9:30 and watched him eat shrimp cocktail and prime rib. I had no time to go out.
Michael Lombardi, former NFL GM, joining us off vacation on the home of the Cowboys and, of course, host of the GM Shuffle. Thank you so much, man. Big fan.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you. Bye-bye.